The steady hum of machines filled the control room of Arc 7. Commander Alan Wright stood by the main view screen, looking at the stars. 200 years had passed since humanity fled Earth. 200 years since the Vraxis Empire attacked their home planet without warning. Most people in the galaxy now believed humans were extinct. They were wrong. Alan rubbed his tired eyes. At 53, he had spent his entire life aboard this massive ship. Like everyone else on Arc 7, he had never felt real gravity or breathed non-recycled air. He had never seen Earth except in old pictures and videos. "Commander, you should see this," called Diane Fuller from her communication station. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen. "I found something strange in the latest deep space scans." Helen walked over to her station. Diane was the best communications officer on the Ark. If she thought something was important, it usually was. "What am I looking at?" he asked. "These signals are coming from Earth," she said, pointing to a pattern on her screen. "They don't match known Vraxis communications." Alan felt his heart beat faster. "Are you sure?" "Very sure, sir. I've been tracking them for 3 days to confirm." News about Earth was rare. The 7 arcs that escaped the invasion had stayed hidden in the outer reaches of different star systems, moving every few years to avoid detection. Each arc held between 40 and 60,000 people, all that remained of humanity. Ellen pressed a button on the wall. "Dr. Ben Miller to the control room, please." 5 minutes later, the ship's head scientist arrived. Ben was younger than Alan by almost 20 years, but his hair was already gray. He listened carefully as Diane explained what she found. "These patterns," Ben said slowly, "they look almost like old human emergency signals, but changed somehow." "Changed by who?" Ellen asked. "The Vraxis killed everyone who didn't escape on the Arks." "Maybe not everyone," Ben replied. "Remember the old stories. Some people tried to hide underground. Maybe some survived." The three looked at each other. The idea that other humans might still exist on Earth seemed impossible, yet the evidence was right in front of them. "We need to know for sure," Alan finally said. "Diane, keep monitoring those signals. Ben, I want you to check our old records for anything similar. We need to be certain before we take action." That night, Alan couldn't sleep. If humans were still on Earth, living under Vraxis rule, didn't the Arks have a duty to help them? But risking the last 50,000 humans on Arc 7 wasn't a decision he could make lightly. The next morning, he called a meeting with his top officers. "The signals are getting stronger," Diane reported. "And I found more of them, coming from different parts of Earth." "I checked the old records," Ben added. "These patterns match emergency codes used by military bunkers before the invasion. Someone is deliberately sending these signals into space." Lieutenant Sam Carter, head of security, spoke next. "We should send a small team to investigate. My stealth ship can get close enough to scan the planet without being detected." "It's too dangerous," said Lisa Brown, their best pilot. "If the Vraxis catch us, they'll follow us back to the Ark." "But if there are humans still alive down there, we can't just ignore them," Joe Martinez said firmly. The young engineer rarely spoke up at meetings, but when he did, people listened. The debate continued for hours. In the end, Alan made his decision. "We'll send a small recon team. Sam, Lisa, Joe, and Kate Phillips from Xenobiology. Your mission is to get close enough to confirm if those signals are from human survivors, then return immediately. No heroics, no contact. We need information before we decide what to do next." As the meeting ended, Alan looked at the old picture of Earth on his wall. For the first time in 2 centuries, humanity had a reason to hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could take back their home. The small stealth ship moved silently toward Earth. Lieutenant Sam Carter checked the ship's cloaking systems one more time. After 2 weeks of travel, they were finally approaching their target. "How much longer?" he asked. Lisa Brown's hands moved smoothly over the controls. "About 3 hours until we reach orbit." So far, no sign they've detected us. Sam nodded. The mission was going well, but he couldn't relax yet. Behind him, Joe Martins and Kate Phillips worked at their stations. Kate monitored alien communications while Joe kept the ship's systems running smoothly. "I can't believe I'm actually seeing Earth," Kate whispered. On the main screen, the blue planet grew larger. None of them had ever seen it except in old pictures. "Focus," Sam reminded her. "Remember, we're here to gather information and leave. No risks." 3 hours later, they entered orbit on the night side of the planet. Lissa positioned their ship over what used to be North America. From this height, Earth looked peaceful, but their scanners told a different story. "I'm picking up thousands of structures that don't match old human buildings," Joe reported. "And there's heavy mining activity in these regions." He pointed to several areas on the map. Kate adjusted her scanners. "The Vraxis are concentrated around these mining sites and what look like processing centers. The rest of the planet seems empty." Sam frowned. "What about the signals?" "Coming from here," Kate pointed to a location near what used to be called Denver. "It's faint but definitely the same pattern Diane detected." Sam made his decision. "We'll go down for a closer look. Lisa, find us a safe landing spot at least 20 miles from any Vraxis activity." The ship descended slowly through the atmosphere. They landed in a forest clearing under cover of darkness. The moment they stepped outside, they all froze. "Real air," Joe whispered, taking deep breaths. "Real gravity." "Stay focused," Sam ordered, though he too felt the strange sensation of being on a planet after living his entire life in space. "We have 4 hours before sunrise. Let's move." They used small hover bikes to travel toward the signal source. As they got closer to the old city ruins, they hid the bikes and continued on foot. The broken buildings looked strange after centuries of abandonment. Plants grew through cracked concrete. The moon shone on empty windows like hollow eyes. "Look there," Kate whispered, pointing ahead. In the distance, strange vehicles moved around a massive pit. Even from far away, they could see the enormous machines digging into the earth. Joe used his scanner. "They're extracting something. My scanner doesn't recognize the mineral." "That's why they stayed," Sam realized. "They found something valuable here." They moved closer, using ruins for cover. From their new position, they could see dozens of Vraxis aliens. They looked like tall, thin creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. They wore no protection against Earth's environment. "They've adapted to Earth," Kate said. "Or maybe Earth was already compatible with their biology." "They seem completely at ease," Sam noted. "No defensive positions, minimal security. They don't expect any threats." "Because they think humans are extinct," Lisa added. Suddenly, Joe's scanner beeped. He quickly silenced it, but his eyes widened. "The signal we traced. It's moving, and it's coming this way." They ducked down behind a collapsed wall. A minute later, they heard soft footsteps. Sam carefully peered around the edge of their hiding place. What he saw made his heart stop. A person, a human person wearing strange patchwork clothing, was moving silently through the ruins, watching the Vraxis mining operation. The figure carried some kind of device that blinked with a tiny light. Sam looked at his team. Their shocked faces mirrored his own feelings. After 200 years, they weren't the only humans left after all. "We need to follow them," Sam whispered. "Find out who they are and how many more might exist." As the mysterious figure slipped away from the mining site, Sam's team followed at a safe distance, careful not to be seen by either the human or the Vraxis. Sam and his team followed the mysterious figure through the ruins. The person moved like someone who knew these old buildings well. After 20 minutes of careful tracking, the figure disappeared near a collapsed subway entrance. "Where did they go?" Lisa whispered. Joe scanned the area. "There must be an underground passage." They approached the entrance carefully. Sam went first, his hand on his weapon. The others followed closely behind. Inside, they found nothing but rubble and darkness. The signal is still moving, Kate said, checking her device. Beneath us. Joe knelt and pushed aside some stones. Look here. He revealed a hidden hatch built into the floor. Someone made this recently. Sam took a deep breath. Ready? When everyone nodded, he pulled the hatch open. They climbed down a metal ladder into darkness. At the bottom, they found themselves in a narrow tunnel. The walls were a mix of old subway structure and newer reinforcements. They had walked only 50 feet when bright lights suddenly blinded them. When their vision cleared, they saw 5 people pointing strange weapons at them. "Don't move," said a deep voice. A tall man with a thick beard stepped forward. His eyes were hard as he studied them. "You're not Vraxis, but you're not from around here either." "We're humans," Sam said slowly. "From Arc 7. The armed people looked at each other in confusion. "The escape ships," the bearded man said. "The ones that left during the invasion." He lowered his weapon slightly. "You're from space." Sam nodded. "We picked up signals from Earth. We came to investigate." The man was silent for a long moment. Then he made a decision. "I'm Paul Freeman. Follow me. Keep your hands where we can see them." They walked through more tunnels until they reached a large open area. Sam and his team stopped in amazement. The underground space held at least 100 people. Some worked on equipment. Others tended to garden beds growing under special lights. Children played in one corner. Humans. Living humans who had survived on Earth all this time. Paul led them to a small side room. "Sit," he said, pointing to some chairs made from old subway seats. "Now talk. Tell me about these arcs." Sam explained how 7 ships had escaped Earth during the Vraxis invasion, how they carried the last 50,000 humans into space, how they had lived hidden for 2 centuries, always moving to avoid detection. "We thought everyone on Earth died," Sam finished. Paul laughed without humor. "Almost everyone did. The Vraxis were thorough. But some people hid in places they didn't check well. Old military bunkers, subway systems, deep mines. We've survived down here for generations." "How many of you are there?" Kate asked. "About 5,000, spread across different underground sites," Paul answered. "We stay hidden, but we watch the aliens, learn their weaknesses." "Weaknesses?" Joe leaned forward. Paul nodded. "They have them. Their hearing, for example. Certain sound frequencies hurt them badly, but humans barely notice these sounds." The team exchanged excited glances. This was valuable information. "Why were you sending signals to space?" Lisa asked. "Some of our old-timers insisted other humans must have survived somewhere. We've been sending signals for years, hoping someone would hear." Paul's eyes grew intense. "We never truly believed anyone would answer." "We need to tell Commander Wright about this," Sam said to his team. Then to Paul, "We want to help. Together, we might have a chance to take back our planet." Paul studied them carefully. "My people have dreamed of fighting back for generations, but we never had enough numbers or technology." He stood up. "I need to discuss this with our council. Until then, you'll stay here as our guests." As Paul left, Sam looked at his team. Their mission had just become much more complicated and much more important. "If we join forces," Joe said quietly, "we might actually have a chance against the Vraxis." Sam nodded. "The commander needs to know everything we've learned. The question is, will the other Arcs be willing to risk coming back to Earth?" Commander Alan Wright stood in the meeting room of Arc 7, facing the leaders of the other 6 Arcs on the large screen. Their faces showed a mix of shock, hope, and fear after hearing his report. "You're certain these signals come from human survivors?" asked Susan Martinez, leader of Arc 3. Her dark eyes were intense. "Yes," Alan replied. "Lieutenant Carter's team made direct contact. There are approximately 5,000 humans living underground on Earth." "After all this time," breathed George Baker from Arc 5. The old man shook his head in wonder. "We never thought anyone could have survived the Vraxis attack." "This changes everything." Susan said. "If humans still live on Earth, we have a duty to help them." "A duty?" George's voice rose. "Our duty is to the 50,000 people on my ark. We can't risk everything on a fight we might not win." The argument spread among the leaders. Some, like Susan, wanted immediate action. Others, like George, feared risking their people. Alan let them talk, understanding both sides. Finally, he raised his hand for silence. "The Vraxis believe humans are extinct," he said calmly. "That gives us an advantage. And Paul Freeman's people have discovered a weakness. Certain sound frequencies harm the Vraxis severely. On Earth, Joe Martins worked with the underground engineers in their main workshop. They had been building sonic devices for weeks, testing different frequencies. "Try this one," said a young woman named Olivia. She handed Joe a small disc-shaped device. Joe adjusted some settings and turned it on. A high-pitched whine filled the air, barely noticeable to human ears. "This should work," he said. "We need to make hundreds more, small enough to carry easily." In another part of the underground base, Sam Carter trained mixed teams of Ark soldiers and Earth fighters. The two groups were very different. The Ark soldiers had better technology, but no experience fighting on a planet. The Earth fighters knew the terrain perfectly, but had only basic weapons. Again, Sam ordered as they practiced taking down a simulated Vraxis outpost. "We need to move faster." Paul Freeman watched from the side, arms crossed. "They're getting better," he admitted. "But will it be enough?" Kate Phillips worked in the medical area, learning about Earth diseases from the underground doctors. Her knowledge of Vraxis biology, combined with their practical experience, was helping create better protective gear for the fighters. "Their skin is sensitive to certain plants," explained Dr. Helen Ward, showing Kate samples they had collected. "We use these to make areas uncomfortable for Vraxis patrols." Back on Ark 7, Alan received the votes from all 7 Ark leaders. 4 had voted to join the fight for Earth. 3 had voted against it. "It's decided then," he told his officers. "Arks 1, 3, 4, and 7 will commit forces. The others will remain hidden as our backup plan." "When do we move?" asked his second-in-command, Frank Davis. 3 weeks, Alan replied. "That's how long Sam's team needs to finish training and building their weapons." He looked at the old picture of Earth on his wall. "Send a message to Lieutenant Carter. Tell him Operation Homecoming is approved." On Earth, Lisa Brown stood with Paul at the entrance to the underground base, watching the sunset. It was something no one from the Arks had ever seen in person. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Paul said quietly. "My great-grandmother told stories about watching sunsets from tall buildings before the invasion." Lisa nodded. "On the Ark, we only had pictures. It's more amazing than I imagined." "This is why we fight," Paul said simply. "For this world. Our home." Below them, humans from space and Earth worked together, preparing for the first battle to reclaim their planet. The sound of training, building, and planning filled the tunnels. The war for Earth was about to begin. The night was dark and silent as 3 teams of humans moved through the ruins toward the small Vraxis outpost. Sam led the first team, with Paul guiding them through shortcuts in the rubble. Lisa flew a small support ship overhead, hidden by clouds. Joe and 20 fighters formed the second team, approaching from the opposite direction. "Remember the plan," Sam whispered into his comm unit. "Team 1 creates the distraction. Team 2 hits their power center. Team 3 secures their communication hub." Each fighter carried a sonic device on their belt. These were their secret weapons, designed to emit the frequencies that caused pain to Vraxis, but were barely noticeable to humans. "In position," Joe reported from the east side of the outpost. "Team 3 ready," Kate confirmed from the south. Sam took a deep breath. "Begin on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." All 3 teams activated their sonic devices at once. The effect was immediate. Inside the outpost, Vraxis guards dropped their weapons and clutched their heads. Some fell to their knees in pain. "Move in," Sam ordered. The human fighters rushed forward. The Vraxis were so disoriented they offered little resistance. Team 2 reached the power center and shut it down, plunging the outpost into darkness. Team 3 secured the communication hub before the aliens could send warnings. Within 20 minutes, the entire outpost was under human control. 43 Vraxis were captured and contained in a secure area. Casualties? Sam asked as team leaders reported in. 3 injured on Team 1. None serious, Paul replied. 2 injuries on Team 2, Joe added. Team 3 all clear, Kate said. Sam felt a wave of relief. Their first attack had succeeded with no human deaths. The sonic weapons had worked even better than they had hoped. As dawn approached, Lisa landed her ship in the center of the outpost. The human fighters loaded captured Vraxis technology and weapons. We need to move quickly, Sam said. When this outpost doesn't report in, they'll send investigators. Paul nodded. Everything of value. Then we disappear. Joe studied the alien power systems they had captured. This technology is amazing. With these parts, we can build better weapons. Kate examined one of the unconscious Vraxis. Their physiology is fascinating. Their hearing is far more sensitive than ours. No wonder the sonic devices worked so well. Suddenly, alarms sounded from their scanning equipment. Lisa ran from her ship, multiple Vraxis vehicles approaching from the north. They'll be here in 10 minutes. Everyone to the extraction points. Sam ordered. Move. The fighters grabbed what they could and ran toward their escape routes. Sam and Paul stayed behind to set explosives around the outpost. 5 minutes until detonation, Paul said as they finished. They sprinted toward the underground entrance where most fighters had retreated. Behind them, the Vraxis vehicles were now visible on the horizon. They're moving faster than expected, Sam said, checking over his shoulder. They reached the hidden entrance just as the first Vraxis ships flew overhead. Paul pulled the camouflage door shut behind them seconds before aliens would have spotted them. Deep in the tunnel, they felt the ground shake as their explosives destroyed the outpost. The tunnel lights flickered but held. Did everyone make it out? Sam asked when they reached the main chamber. Lisa checked her roster. All present except. Wait, where's Joe? He was right behind me, one fighter said. Sam was about to organize a search party when Joe stumbled into the chamber. His arm was bleeding, but he was smiling. Sorry I'm late, he said. I had to grab this. He held up a small device covered in alien markings. It's their central communication processor. With this, we can monitor all Vraxis communications. A cheer went up from the gathered fighters. Their first battle was a complete success. They had proven that humans could fight back and win. But deep in their underground base, none of them saw the large Vraxis ships entering Earth's atmosphere. Governor Zextal, leader of all Vraxis forces on Earth, had received word of the attack, and he was not pleased. Governor Zextal stood in his command center, 4 arms clasped behind his back. His gray skin looked almost blue under the harsh lights. Around him, Vraxis officers worked at control stations. Show me the attack footage again, he ordered. The screen displayed images of the destroyed outpost. The governor's yellow eyes narrowed as he studied the damage patterns. This was not done by animals or weather, he said. These are weapon marks. Someone attacked our outpost. Impossible, said Commander Vexnor. No other species has visited this planet in 2 centuries. And the humans are extinct. Are they? Zextal turned to face his commander. I want all major cities and mining operations on high alert. Deploy elite units to each location and activate the defense systems around the primary excavation sites. In the ruins of Chicago, Lisa's small ship hovered low between broken buildings. Below, a fierce battle raged. Human fighters were caught in the open by a Vraxis patrol. Their sonic devices weren't working well against the new Vraxis troops, who wore special ear coverings. They've adapted. Sam's voice crackled over the radio. We need air support. Lisa pushed her ship forward, firing at the Vraxis vehicles. Her shots destroyed 2, but there were too many. She watched in horror as a group of Earth fighters became trapped between collapsed buildings. Without hesitation, Lisa landed her ship in the open, drawing enemy fire away from the trapped humans. "Get them out of there," she yelled into her comm. "I'll keep the Vraxis busy." Sam and Paul led a team to rescue the trapped fighters while Lisa's ship took heavy damage. By the time all humans were safe, her engines were failing. "Lisa, get out of there," Joe shouted through the comm. "Too late," she replied calmly. "Ship won't lift. Get everyone to safety." Before anyone could stop her, Lisa set her damaged ship to overload. She ran from the cockpit toward the trapped Vraxis forces. The explosion destroyed her ship and took out 20 enemy soldiers. In the command center below the ruins, Paul laid out a map for the remaining team leaders. Lisa's sacrifice had allowed their forces to escape, but they had lost many fighters in this battle. "The Vraxis are activating old defense systems around all major cities," he said grimly. "They know we're here now." Kate looked up from the communication device Joe had captured. "I've been monitoring their transmissions. They're targeting our underground shelters. They've detected heat signatures from our larger bases. If they find the civilian shelters," Sam couldn't finish the thought. "Thousands of women, children, and elderly would be in danger." Commander Alan Wright received the news on Arc 7. He stood silent for a long moment, weighing the risk against the potential cost. Then he made his decision. "Send this message to Lieutenant Carter," he told his communications officer. "We're moving Arc 7 into Earth orbit. We'll draw their forces away from the underground bases." The officer looked shocked. "Sir, that will reveal our location to the Vraxis." "I know," Alan said quietly, "but it's our only chance to save those people." 3 days later, Arc 7 appeared in Earth orbit, weapons ready. As Alan had predicted, Vraxis ships immediately moved to attack this new threat, drawing forces away from the hunt for underground bases. On the surface, Paul watched Vraxis ships leave the area. "It worked," he told Sam. "But your people just put themselves in terrible danger." Sam nodded grimly. The commander knew the risk. With the Vraxis forces divided, Kate led a small team into the main alien communication hub. Disguised in recovered Vraxis worker outfits, they slipped past guards focused on the space battle. Inside, Kate accessed the main system. What she discovered stunned her. The Vraxis never reported finding humans to their homeworld, she told Sam later. They failed to completely eliminate humanity as ordered. If their leaders found out, they would be severely punished. They'd been hiding their failure for 2 centuries. Sam looked at the information in amazement. "Then no reinforcements will come from their homeworld." "Because they don't know they need to send any," Kate finished. For the first time, Sam allowed himself to feel real hope. The Vraxis on Earth were alone. And now, so were the humans. Joe Martinez stood at the central control panel, his fingers moving quickly over the screen. Around him, engineers from both Earth and the Arcs worked on dozens of devices. These were larger versions of their sonic weapons, designed to affect entire areas instead of just a few Vraxis. "The network is almost ready," Joe said to Sam and Paul. "We need 20 more transmitters placed around the main Vraxis cities." "My teams are setting them up now," Paul replied. "They'll be in position by dawn." Above the Earth, Arc 7 continued to battle Vraxis ships. The space battle had raged for 3 days. Commander Wright had executed a brilliant strategy, using the Arc's superior speed to avoid direct hits while keeping the alien forces focused on space rather than the ground. The other 3 Arcs remained hidden, but sent small, fast ships to help. The Vraxis were confused by these unknown vessels appearing from different directions. "Sir," Frank Davis said to Commander Wright on the bridge of Arc 7, "Governor Zextal's command ship is approaching." Alan nodded. This was the moment they had been waiting for. "Send the signal to Lieutenant Carter. Tell him to activate the network as soon as Zextal enters Earth's atmosphere." On Earth, Sam received the message. "It's time," he told Joe. "The governor's ship is incoming." Job took a deep breath and pressed the activation sequence. All across the planet, the hidden sonic transmitters powered up. A high-pitched frequency began to broadcast, just at the edge of human hearing, but devastating to Vraxis biology. In cities, mines, and bases across the planet, Vraxis soldiers collapsed in pain. In the atmosphere, Zextal's ship wobbled as the crew was suddenly incapacitated. Now, Sam shouted into his comm unit. All across the planet, human fighters emerged from hiding. They rushed Vraxis positions while the aliens were disabled by the sonic network. In what had once been New York, Paul led his team into the main Vraxis headquarters. In London, Kate's forces secured the alien research facilities. Across every continent, humans reclaimed territory that had been lost for 2 centuries. Commander Wright watched from orbit as Zextal's ship drifted, its engines failing. "Capture teams ready," he ordered. "Bring the governor aboard." 4 hours later, Governor Zextal stood in the Ark's meeting room, his tall gray form surrounded by human guards. His yellow eyes showed both pain and surprise. "You were extinct," he said simply. "How is this possible?" "Not extinct," Commander Wright replied. "Just waiting for the right moment to take back our home." The governor studied the humans around him. "I underestimated your species, a mistake I will not make again." "There won't be a next time," Sam said. "Your forces are defeated. Your ships are captured or destroyed. You have lost Earth." Zextal was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke a truth he had hidden for years. "No reinforcements will come from my homeworld. I never reported finding survivors here. The shame would have meant my execution." "Then you have a choice," Wright said. "Surrender Earth to us, or die here alone." 1 month later, Paul Freeman and Commander Wright stood on a hillside overlooking the first new human city. Construction teams worked to clear rubble and build homes. In the distance, the other arcs were visible in the sky, bringing the rest of humanity home. "I never thought I'd see this day," Paul said quietly. "My ancestors spoke of blue skies and open spaces, but I never truly believed we would experience them. And I never dreamed we would really return to Earth," Wright replied. "For generations, it was just a distant memory, a story we told our children." Below them, people from the arcs and the underground communities worked side by side. Children who had never seen the sky played in the sunshine. Families planted gardens in real soil. In the distance, the remaining Vraxis loaded onto their last ships. According to the surrender terms, they would leave Earth forever and spread word that humans were not to be underestimated. "What happens now?" Paul asked. Wright smiled. Now we rebuild. We grow. And someday when we're ready, we'll reach for the stars again. But this time, we'll go as explorers, not refugees." The sun set over the new human city, painting the sky in colors that had once been forgotten. Humanity had taken back their home, and this time, they would never let it go.